Welcome back to this special live edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. We're talking with the experts from New Holland Agriculture tonight, and we're glad to take your questions. Now is the opportunity, so give us a call. The number is 1-888-824-6688, and we'll get your question on the air. Let's get back to our discussion now, and I believe we've got a caller on the line right now. Ray, you want to go ahead?
Yes, sir. I've got a question. I've got a disc hay cutter with crimpers on it.
Sure.
And it seems like after 2 or 3 years of cutting hay grazer with it, it doesn't want to take the hay up in the crimpers anymore. And I was wanting to know what would cause that. Is it because the rubber's getting hard on it or what?
Great question. Disc vine. What do you say, Jordan?
Well, one of the biggest things when you're feeding the rolls on a disc mower conditioner, there's a couple things to look at. One, the condition of the lifters. It may not even be the rolls themselves. The lifters are the cast wings that are actually mounted on the cutting discs themselves.
Okay.
As they wear, particularly in a sandier area, they're going to lose their effectiveness in lifting that crop and feeding it into the rolls. Rolls themselves do wear over time, particularly when the timing adjustment's not monitored because they can rub and touch. So making sure your rolls are in time and that they're gapped properly is going to also help really improve feeding of that crop.
Very good. Thank you for the call. Stan is calling us from Tennessee. How are you doing tonight, Stan? Oh, Dan, I'm sorry. Dan?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Kevin.
Sure.
This program is absolutely amazing. Today, I have a very small operation, 35 acres, and I cut hay on about 12 to 15 of it, but I have horses. And today I found a very nice used New Holland hay rake. So I purchased it, and I like New Holland equipment.
Right.
And in the area there are some New Holland square balers. And I was wondering what you might be able to tell me to look for in the purchase of a square baler, because I've seen people have a lot of trouble with the timing on them. Sometimes they don't tie right, the string breaks, whatever. So what do I need to look for? Because square baling is the way I'm going to have to go in a small operation. And do they make a small one? Is there a size differential here that I might need to look for when purchasing a square baler?
Super. It sounds like a timely question. So what do you have to tell us about square balers?
You bet. As far as size, they're 14 by 18 size bales as far as height and width. That's going to be pretty much standard.
Yep.
But depending upon the model number, some of them have more strokes per minute. Like our current small square baler, a BC 5050, would be the smaller one at 79 strokes a minute. So we rated it lower horsepower. So depending upon what size of tractor you have to pull it, that baler will actually work with as low as about 45 horsepower.
Wow.
But then when you jump up to the next two sizes, you need more power because now things are stroked faster, but the same size bale. So keep that in mind as you're looking at balers, but then also some other things to take a look at would be needles. If you get underneath the baler and take a look at the needles, there's a slot obviously in the needles for the twine to go through. If that baler's had a lot of twine through it, it'll actually cut or start cutting through that slot. So that's one area you can look for estimating bale count. Another thing you can do is take the plunger and move it side to side. If you have the chance to demo that baler, a sweet thing to do is just run a few bales through it and see how clean the cut side of the bale is. If it's very washboardy, then you most definitely need to reshim your stationary knife and your plunger knife. You may even need to reshim plunger rails, which, hey, none of that stuff's that expensive, but it just takes time to do that. And then the last thing you can look at up in the knotter area would be twine discs to see if they're notched out just like the needles would be.
Very good. Some real good practical advice. Thanks so much. I was going to ask you, Mike, getting in and out of some of these cabs at convention, you really have done a nice job keeping creature comforts in mind. Highlight some of the advances you all have made at New Holland as it relates to the cab and that operator center.
Yeah, we recognize that operators spend a lot of time in the cab of the tractor, and we feel that it's very important for them to be able to feel comfortable and spacious with the controls. So all of that is taken into consideration in terms of the placement of the controls and making sure that they're within a comfortable reach. Also, size and visibility of the cab. For example, in our new TS6 series, brand new cab for that tractor, very spacious, and now has a visibility panel to be able to see the front end loader whenever it's raised all the way up. Also has an option that can be put in for an instructor seat. So if there's another operator, a person that would like to ride along with the operator, he can sit in that instructor seat, still be in a safe position with the seat belt and be able to do that. So comfort is at the top of the list in terms of cab layout and controls for those operators today in our New Holland tractors.
Good. We're going to go back to Oklahoma. Hopefully it's not another dental question, but Glenn, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I apologize for the other caller from Oklahoma. My question is, I'm going to be putting in about 200 acres of alfalfa.
Yep.
And I got rid of all my hay equipment years ago, but I'll be buying new. So I want to know what the advantages of the New Holland over Heston would be. Heston was the last ones I used, so I'm looking at buying new. So I just wanted.
So let's split it.
Yeah.
You can do the
Go
cutting and I'll
ahead.
do the baling.
All right. From a cutting standpoint, what do you say?
Well, from a cutting standpoint, there's a number of differences. One of the things that's a hallmark from an alfalfa standpoint for New Holland is our traditional chevron rubber roll. Mm-hmm. The design was originally introduced in 1964. Mm-hmm. It went through a slight evolution through the late 1960s, but overall, the design and the roll placement hasn't changed because the rolls are the right rolls in the right place at the right time. Our new disc bind center pivot machines probably be the perfect machine for the size of operation that you're looking to undertake. Disc bind 313 is a 13-foot, and we also have a 16-foot version available with those same rubber rolls. And the rubber rolls have what we call wide dry, which is actually the widest conditioning system of center pivot pull type machine on the market today. So that's going to allow you to take that alfalfa crop, lay it out very wide, so that it's going to dry very quickly for maximum quality.
Sure.
Probably the refocusing on cutter bar, the Momax Momax 2 true modular disc cutter bar is an innovation that we pioneered a number of years ago on our 1400 series machines. And what that means is you essentially have a small modular gearbox underneath every cutting disc. So in the event of a collision, if there's damage to the cutter bar drive, it's contained to that one gearbox, whereas other brands that use a continuous gear-to-gear style bar don't have that same level of security. And of course, we have our Shock Pro hub, which we introduced on H7000 series. The Shock Pro hub provides a sacrificial part so that if you do have a collision, you're basically replacing that part very quickly in the field with very minimal downtime. All the damage is contained externally of the cutter bar, and it gives New Holland and our customers a lot of confidence. It gave us enough confidence that we are able to provide an additional 2 years of cutter bar component protection under the Momax protection to the internal cutter bar drive line.
That's great. And before we go to the next caller, what about baling equipment? How does it differ from Heston?
You bet. In the round baling world, we now have the opportunity to run a 5-bar pickup as an upgrade to a dry hay baler, or if you're buying a silage special in a 4x6 size bale, you would already have that. If it's a 560, which would be a 5x6 baler, you automatically, if you buy a specialty crop, you'd get that 5-bar pickup with stiffer tines. But one of the new technologies with the New Holland is split center tine bars, and what that means is you have 4 supports in the pickup basically with half tine bars, if you will, with a split center. So if I bend 3 bands on the right-hand side and bend 1 tine bar, I take half the pickup bands apart. I'm only buying half a tine bar back in the field quicker for less money, which is what it's all about.
Very good. We'll take the next caller from Wisconsin. John, go ahead with your call.
Hello.
Yes, John, we can hear you.
Yes, my question is, I just bought a brand new New Holland 7020, disc bind, and the problem is, or what I'm wondering is, I want to make hay dry as fast as possible. You know how it is, it's always going to rain, and I work full time during the day, and I want to know how to set it up properly. I wonder if I can set it up wide enough and I'm running over the windrows. Is that going to disadvantage the drying, or should I have it just as wide as I can without running over it, with the wheels? That's my question.
Getting hay cut. Yeah, go ahead.
This was a 7230, I'm gonna guess, which is our roll machine and a 10-foot cut.
Okay.
I personally like to spread the crop out as wide as possible because the first initial drying cycle is the rapid drying, and the more exposure to sun you get, the faster it's going to dry. If you're not seeing that, then one of the things I'd look at obviously is the roll gap, the space between the rolls, and you want to have that set somewhere between a 1/16 of an inch and an 1/8 of an inch, roughly. The timing needs to be adjusted so that the lugs intermesh properly, of course. And probably the most commonly understood adjustment on a New Holland is the crank on the back of our disc bind machine. What that does is actually applies roll pressure. And I like to kind of refer to it more like a wringer washer, because you're basically just pressing 2 rolls together that way with a torsion bar. And setting that pressure appropriately is a good place to start. I like to back it off till it's loose, apply 10 turns, make sure that I'm getting the conditioning that I want to see. If it's a little bit heavier stand, I put a few more turns on, a little bit more roll pressure. If it's over conditioning, just back it off a little bit from there. So those are really the two things, swath width and making sure you're set properly.
Yeah.
And if the crop is alfalfa, it really doesn't hurt it to drive over it. The key is keeping it thin, like Jordan was saying. Sunlight can get to the leaves, open the stomata, let the water out basically, and from basically 80% standing moisture to 65% moisture, it's all about the stomata and letting the water out. So driving over it is a much...
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry about it.
A lot better than getting a bunch of wet hay or hay that's down for 3 or 4 days and can't be put up.
Correct.
I wanted to follow that up, Jordan, I guess, and just tell folks, why is cut quality so important if you're trying to put up high quality forage?
Well, cut quality is really critical for a number of reasons. Three things come to mind. First and foremost, everybody likes their field to look like a fresh mown lawn. So there's the aesthetic aspect of it. That's the thing people notice first. But if your hay is down and you're having trouble getting it up, anything you're leaving behind is lost tonnage. And lost tonnage for a producer is money lost. But it's actually a little bit worse than that, because for an alfalfa type plant, for example, the plant's going to regrow from the crown. So if a stem is left attached that has been cut off, that stem is going to die. And on subsequent cuttings, it can actually reduce the total quality. So from a quality standpoint and an aesthetic standpoint, it's pretty important.
So is there anything else other than what you've already told us about setting that conditioner to maximize dry down and to retain that high quality forage?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different types of crops out there, and at New Holland we offer a very diverse offering. We have our traditional rubber chevron rolls, which is the choice of most producers out there. We also have our new steel chevron rolls, and the steel chevron roll works very similarly to the rubber chevron, but it's got a heavier steel cleat tine on it. So what that's going to do is work very well in grass hays and cane type crops. Winter forage type applications, because it's going to handle those abrasive type crops a lot better, and abrasive conditions certainly a lot better. And then we have our advanced leading edge tine flail system, which is a really innovative system for grass hays primarily. And what that does is actually strips the waxy layer off the cuticle of the plant. Wow. And instead of intending to crack and crimp the stem, you're actually just removing its protective coating and allowing that moisture to just leave laterally through the stems or the blades of grass. So
that's really interesting. Well, thank you guys for that insight. Some very, very practical insight for our callers tonight. We're asking you tonight to join us as a member of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. There are special incentives for NCBA members from New Holland Agriculture. And if you join tonight, we'll send you a free copy of New Holland's Haymaker Handbook. You'll want one of those. You can't beat that offer. To find out more and to join now, just give us a call at 1-866-USAB.